After a 12-hour flight, Pope Francis arrived to Havana, Cuba. The first thing he noticed was the strong wind that blew away his papal hat. He was first welcomed on the red carpet by Cuban leader Raúl Castro, just moments later by a group of local children dressed in traditional local attire. Castro first delivered his speech. He thanked the Pope for highlighting the need to care for the environment. Then the focus turned on the newly re-established ties between the U.S. and Cuba. Castro thanked the Pope for being a mediator, but he also laid out other thorny issues.
El bloqueo que provoca daños humanos y privaciones a la familia cubana es cruel, inmoral e ilegal. Debe cesar. El territorio que ocupa la base naval en Guantánamo debe ser devuelto a Cuba. Otros asuntos deben ser también dirimidos.
The Pope called on Castro and other political leaders to use the newly re-established ties as a symbol of how dialogue can indeed lead to concrete results.
Animo a los responsables políticos a continuar avanzando por este camino y a desarrollar todas sus potencialidades como prueba del alto servicio que están llamados a prestar en favor de la paz y el bienestar de sus pueblos y de toda América, y como ejemplo de reconciliación para el mundo entero.
Calling on the patroness of Cuba, Our Lady of Charity, the Pope asked Cuba to travel the paths of justice, peace, liberty, and reconciliation, especially amid all the turmoil and tension lived around the globe.
El mundo necesita reconciliación en esta atmósfera de tercera guerra mundial por etapas que estamos viviendo.
This year, Cuba and the Holy See celebrate 80 years since establishing uninterrupted diplomatic ties. In his speech, the Pope said his words were for all Cubans, including those who are no longer living on the island.